We can't wait to hear about it. Ooh,
Joy is my thing.
Yeah. Lori,
you got your joy mug. Look at you.
Totally not planned. I grabbed it off of the wall and I was like, I'm doing joy today. And I didn't know you'd be talking about joy.
Awesome. That's Jesus creeping back there. That's awesome.
All right. 30 more seconds, and it's going to kick everyone back in.
So it was Zephaniah 3. What were the verses?
14 to 17.
All right, thank you.
Lori, it's also on the bottom of your thing under extension.
Megan's on it.
We complete each other.
And I even texted you it.
I didn't get it. I didn't get your reply.
I don't know why it didn't go through. Yeah, it didn't go through. I'm sorry. Because I'm like, I texted to you. It said that it failed. Sorry.
It's fine. Sorry, Kimberly. I pushed the wrong button.
It's okay.
All right. I believe we have everyone back in.
Welcome back, everybody. We made it. Short time. Sorry, we had to cut it down so you can have a good lunchtime. We want you to eat and be refreshed. So we're going to make this a quick wrap up, a comeback together. So again, I'm going to go through your group, and when you hear your number, you have to unmute yourself and share with me. Fill my tank, people. Fill this extrovert up. Looking at you, Becky Griffin, looking at you. All right. So group, I'm going to start us off right. Group number 1.
So group number 1. So group 1 was obviously all the admin. But for me, my takeaway from the last session was honestly just how amazing God is in the intricacies and how he works everything together, because both Alexis and I knew vaguely what we were sharing, but as she's sharing, I'm like, this is so awesome, because what I'm talking about flows right in, and I'm excited to just see how God keeps working and moving in it. So yeah, it's awesome.
Love that Jesus creeping. Yes. All right, group number 2. Group number 2. Yay, God, indeed.
Us over here.
Oh, hi.
What's up, guys? For us, we kind of hung out in the icebreaker a little longer than we did on a lot of the questions. But I mean, it's our current circumstances. But we pretty much all kind of came to the consensus that, yeah, there's anxiety and with everything that's going on, and there's kind of like ups and downs, but for the most part, we have all kind of found our joy in being able to bring church into our homes and to share the gospel, and even for those families who might not have a believing husband or what have you, that now that's in the home and it's being spoken out loud, even if they weren't exposed to it or whatnot. So that was encouraging. So I think for the most part, we are experiencing a bit of that joy, just being home and being able to minister to our families in that way.
Awesome. All right, group 3. Yay, Megan, I see you.
Yeah, that's me. Everybody chooses me to be their leader. Okay, so we kind of jumped around again. We answered all the questions. Well, not all the questions, but probably where we spent the most was our favorite material, like what we were getting out of it.
Yes, I like this.
It's awesome to see like the difference of like some people really honed in on the like the production line. They really like that. There were other people who were really clinging to the joy aspect of it. They just, you know, finding joy in the season. Then you have like me. I really liked the 8th day about church and how much of a different attitude we would have if our church culture carried that. And I had never heard it that way. And I really like it. But I think how much different would our churches be if that was the attitude instead of like something else I check off on my to-do list. And so there's all of those, and just we talked about the shift of perspective. So yeah,
good job. All right, group.
Hi. Yeah, we talked probably a lot about joy, but I think kind of like some of the ways that we concluded it is that all of this really comes down to awareness and choice. Is that we have, first of all, we have to choose Christ. And then the gift of Christ is that the grace and being able to have that salvation in that. And then that how like grace and joy are so intimately connected. And it's like if we, you know, we have joy because of the grace of Jesus in our life, and then it just kind of cycles around. But also too, like the choice to be able to be joyful, or even the choice to not be joyful, the hope that we have, especially in Christ, is that our salvation is secure, and that God's end game will never change. And so we can either choose to be joyful, we can even choose to not be grateful or joyful. And yet God's ultimate plan for his will and his, everything that he has for us, that will never change. And I think that is a unique perspective that we can keep in mind too, is that the grace that we have, even in the times when we're not joyful, there's grace in that, and that God is going to be glorified in our life regardless. And so I think that is the true hope that we have, is that, in the end we win, and we win pretty big. And so I think that's really something to be joyful about.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Great job, group 4. All right, group 5.
One of the things that we talked about was suffering publicly. And so Laurie asked, well, how do you do that, And so I shared something that I went through when we were in Colorado Springs some years ago. And it was a time when I heard the Lord say that you're getting ready to go through some suffering. And I said, trouble. And I was like, I don't want to go through any trouble. And tell me where this trouble is going to come from. So I was trying to figure out, was it going to come from the house? Was it going to come from the job? Was it going to come from my church family? So I didn't hear the Lord say anything. But what happened was my mindset, as I continued in prayer about this, my mind changed, my mindset changed, and I began to pray, okay, Lord, when I go through this suffering, I don't want to blame anybody. I don't want to mumble and complain. I want to go through it with the right attitude, right? And so when that suffering came, it was from my job. And so my coworkers saw me walk through this suffering, but without mumbling, without complaining, without talking about the job, without talking about my coworkers. So that to me was a picture of suffering publicly. And I think that's where God will help us to be, as believers when we suffer.
Yeah, and as we're in that moment and time of suffering or struggle, he wants us to still boast in the things that he is doing. We can
absolutely
the work of God in our lives, and because we understand that in the wilderness we're being trained and prepared for something else. That struggling and suffering is preparing us to understand ultimately that hope better than we did before.
Absolutely, and that becomes our vantage point.
Yes.
We suffer from of a knowing that God is in control and that he's at work and he's doing what he wants to do, and it's going to all come out for the better. So
love that, Miss Delphine. Yes.
Can I add to what Delphine said in our group? There were just the different points of view on how we suffer publicly and how others are seeing us with the things that we post while we're here in this, distancing, we can post about the good things that we're doing with our kids and our families and the scripture, or choosing to be negative, and how others see us in this suffering while we're in quarantine, and just having the different points of view in that.
Yeah.
Good job. Good job, group 5. All right, group 6. Group 6. Don't wait. Don't wait.
Okay, I'll talk. I was trying to give someone else another chance to talk because I feel like I always talk for my group. But I think what we had mainly touched on was the production line, and just understanding how, the suffering, how that leads to our hope. I think that was important for us. And then a lot of us said that it was... Okay. A lot of us said that it was... the words that you gave for rejoice, it was interesting to know that there was 19 different words for the Hebrew word of rejoice. And then we touched on suffering and how all of us have suffered at some point, but recognizing kind of like what Delphine said, at what point our vantage point is, it helps us see it in a completely different way. And I just shared how normally when I would suffer, I would ask God, why me? And since four months ago when he really saved me, now I'm happy in the suffering, and the suffering I'm going through now, people would think I'm insane that I have joy, but it's just because they don't understand. It's nothing that comes from me. I have always been pessimistic, always been just, having the worst case scenario type attitude. And in the worst season I've ever been in my life, there is more joy than I could ever know how to handle or just even talk about. So it was just really good to really look at that and just understand exactly where that comes from.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. All right, group 7.
Okay, I guess I am the one.
Nice shirt, V. That's a nice shirt.
Thanks. I mean, in good company. We hung out a little bit longer on the icebreaker as well. And then we kind of went to the other place we hung out on. Was one of the points Amanda gave at the end was the waiting expectantly on hope. We need to be training ourselves as well as others. And we just talked about how we can use this extra time to use that to train up our families, our children, but also ourselves. We need to be, it just went, whoo, hello. I just had a thought and it went away. But my kids have been trained. One of the things I shared is my kids, sometimes I learn more from my kids than they learn from a lot of times, especially my little guy, my little preacher guy. But he has been very, it's been kind of cool to watch him, how this is all playing out, and he's very aware of other people, taking care of other people. He's not worrying, where I've been more this stinks, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't go see my friends, I can't, and I've been very sad about all of that, and he's making sure everybody else is okay. And that kind of made me stop and go, wow, I need to be less focused on my own junk, be more focused on other people. So anyway, that's what I had.
That was a good share.
Thanks.
Yes. Mic drop indeed. Good job. All right. That was group 7. Group